Brian Duffy is in studio with us, and we're waiting to see what you're going to be drawing next. Brian Duffy, of course, we were talking the Iowa History Journal earlier this week, and a great image there done by yours truly.
Such a cool drawing.
Talking about the caucuses, of course, we have a lot of political figures that you're showing us quite often, and if you check out your Facebook page, you were talking about something a little bit different that didn't involve politics.
Maybe we'll go in that direction. I can save another idea for another time. There were a lot of people, obviously, at the Rose Bowl that were rather upset with the band, the Stanford band, and what
they made it look like cow tipping and stuff.
Yeah, cow tipping. Yeah, which I'm not.
Everyone took it as an insult to Iowa. Different things, visuals they were showing.
Yeah. And it was. But this is what the Stanford band has been doing since I think it's like 1963. The Stanford band back then. Obviously it's the 60s, obviously it's California, obviously it's close enough to Berkeley, so Stanford and Berkeley are about the same, on the same wavelength. They went on a student strike, a band strike. And what they wanted was they wanted to have their own control of the band. And so when they got control of the band, what it ended up being was the band was in essence a mixture of the Merry Pranksters and the Deltas from Animal House, which is exactly what these people do.
Now they do stand out. They're a good sounding band, and even in the parade, they're pretty much the only band you remember because they're not just doing the line and the perfect. They kind of run
around
They
a little
do
bit.
their own
it's a scatter band.
things.
Yeah.
You remember
scatter
them.
band.
Yeah.
And
well,
I have to remember
what
and if I was in college, we're all doing silly stuff that maybe we don't always agree that we should have done as we're older. But I feel like this is something we would have done if we were in college.
Yeah. Now the instrument thing, I have to argue with you on that because the instrument thing, they play kazoos, they play water
kitchen
jugs,
so
kitchen sinks,
you
stop signs.
You don't want to compare them to an official marching band.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. And in fact, we got all upset about this, but looking at their history, okay, so 2 years ago at the Rose Bowl, Stanford played Wisconsin. So their theme for Wisconsin was, in essence, it was called homage to fromage, which in language means
which I try to do every weekend, honestly.
Which in essence means
honoring the cheese.
Ode to cheese.
Ode to chaise.
Yeah. So one of my cartoons, what I did was actually. You can see this on the website. This is one that did not get in there. It didn't have enough room. That's one problem with the newspaper is
only so much space.
Only so much that you can do. So, you had that. And then a couple of the other ones that I hadn't been able to put in was I think one of them was when they played USC. They had I believe it was they put a wheelchair out there and they said really it was Whistler's mother. They just didn't get it right, things like that. So this band has been known for all kinds of hijinks like that. There's, their main band clothing for the most part is just
They're like fish hats, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a fish hat and a red jacket, and that's it. So. That's it.
Does it take away from? I don't know. Like they stand out. I think it's tongue in cheek. Is it insulting, or should we take it as a joke?
Well, I mean, you have to consider a few things. Okay, if anybody's gone to Catholic school, they know what a nun's habit looks like.
Right.
Right. Okay, so when you play Notre Dame and you're the Stanford band, what do? Well, the Stanford band leader walked out onto the field, and instead of having the typical standard that he had, he dressed in nun's garb and with a cross, and was actually attacked on the field by a Notre Dame fan. They were banned from Notre Dame, and I think they still are banned, and this is going back to the 1990s.
Because they have been fined before.
Oh, they've been fined. They've been banned. They went to Oregon, and their mascot is a tree.
Right.
You have all of these different things. Theirs is a tree. So, what do you do when you go to Oregon? I mean, you go up there, you take a look at the situation, you say, well, it's logging up there. So they had a chainsaw, they formed their lines in a chainsaw and also a spotted owl.
Ah.
And the governor banned them from coming back to the state.
Really?
Yeah. So this is just something that, that they do.
I think the biggest accomplishment of this band 2 Fridays ago is that they convinced millennials to offend someone. And that takes a lot. And that's what they do.
Now that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that if anybody remembers National Lampoon of the really 60s, 70s, 80s, and I think it died in about 85, they offended people on a regular basis, and that's that's satire. Nowadays, people don't want to be uncomfortable, and political correctness has gotten to the point where you have to watch yourself everywhere you go. You don't know where the landmines are. So, yeah, I think that there is some benefit to that, and I think that there was. The one problem is I didn't see a lot of news stories about their entire history. What they've done, what programs they've had over the years. Another one that they did was a group of them had gone over to the OJ trial. And
really?
Yeah.
The Stanford band went to the OJ trial?
Part of them did, yeah.
Really?
They skipped practice, went over to the OJ trial, and were singing the song "She's Not There" from the Zombies. So
Okay.
it's kind of like
Interesting.
they don't have a real they come up with their own stuff.
So
And supposedly it's checked by the university, but I don't think very well.
Well, why is this continued? if they're getting kicked out, do they appreciate?
Because we're talking about it, and everyone else is talking about it.
And it should be talked about, and your point is correct. We get so concerned about political correctness that we're offended by everything, and once in a while you have to be offended. And sometimes you can see the humor in it.
Governor Huckabee, he was here Sunday, said, now we're going to do Q&A, and you think that's a question and answer. It's actually question and avoidance, because everyone here taping on their phones, he goes, we're always worried about a career-ending moment.
Oh yeah, especially nowadays. Yeah, it is. And sometimes it'd be nice to see somebody said, yeah, I said that. Big deal. Get over it.
Moving on.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us more of the history
Donald
of
Trump.
an incident that happened a couple Fridays
he's trying.
That's his whole
ago.
campaign.
If people want to see more drawings, they want to catch up with what you're doing, Brian Duffy, where's the best place to go?
Well, I've got that cartoon that they can see that one on my website, which is Brian Duffy Cartoons. I've got that on my Twitter site too, which is Duffy Inc. And
Buy the book.
buy the book. Caucuses or what? What are we talking about? Less than a
26
month?
days. 26 days.
26 days away, and I've got a book out that's on the Iowa caucuses, the entire history, in cartoon form, of course. So
It's a great book.
There you
Check it
go.
out. And you buy it on Amazon?
Amazon, in fact, our Barnes & Noble here in town and over in West Des Moines has a stack of them right now.
And you can also see his drawings on Iowa History Journal. You're everywhere, Brian Duffy.
Gosh, yes.
Talking about history of things happening and, of course, politics as well. Make sure you check him out. Thank you for coming with us or joining us this morning and talking about the history of a band that Iowans just hate right now. All right, we'll be back with more great things right here on KCWY.